You may have heard that there's a new law about sending SMS text messages to residents of Texas. And that is correct. And it actually takes effect as of today, September 1st, 2025. As of today, SMS text messages from businesses to residents in the state of Texas are now being included under the laws for telemarketing. So, what does this mean for you? Well, I'm certainly not a lawyer, but I am going to share a couple of articles with you today, as well as what I'm doing to try and make sure that I'm covered and just playing it safe. My name is Catherine Ferris. I am the owner of Marketecs and Marketecs Engine, and I have been doing online marketing and digital marketing for over 16 years. It is nothing new that the rules change and new regulations come out. What we have to do as smart marketers is educate ourselves and then take every precaution that we can. And I think what's important to mention here is that today this is the state of Texas, but it doesn't mean that other states are not going to follow suit. I believe understanding what this means for us as marketers, as business owners is really important. And then understanding how we can take steps to protect ourselves and follow these laws, even if they happen to vary state from state. Okay, so what I'm going to do today is take a look at how you can comply with what I am interpreting as these laws for sending SMS text messages to any resident in the state of Texas. And I'm going to do that using my marketing software platform, Marketecs Engine, which happens to be my version of GoHighLevel or GoHighLevel. And I will say that I am taking a very safe approach, and I am simply at this time opting Texas residents out. I am turning on the do not disturb for Texas residents. And so I'm going to show you how to do that in a way that's automated and that will continue to do that going forward if that's what you choose to continue to do. So let's take a look inside of GoHighLevel with exactly how to set this up with your forms, your automations, and some smart lists. Now, as I mentioned, I do have some articles that I'm going to link in the description below. GoHighLevel's support portal actually has an article here that talks about what this change is, that it goes into effect today, who it applies to. There are some exemptions, so you want to take a look and see if you believe you fall into any of those exemptions. And then, of course, what happens? I mean, we're talking about $5,000 per violation, potentially, which is why I'm taking a safe approach to this law. Lovable also did a nice roundup of what this new law means, and I'm sure there's plenty of other articles out there, but these are the two that I'm going to link to in the description to help you understand and navigate this new law. All right, so let's take a look here inside GoHighLevel, or my version of GoHighLevel, which is Marketecs Engine. This is a demo account. I have set it up so that I can give you a quick demo here. I'm going to start in contacts. And the first thing I chose to do was create a smart list to at least identify those people that I believe on my list already happen to be Texas residents. So I'm going to go over here to filters, and I'm going to find state. All right, when I find the state field, I'm going to put in Texas, or state is Texas, and click apply. And you'll notice it's live updating behind me here. I'm going to add another variation because depending on how people put their state in, they may use the abbreviation instead of the full name. So I'm also going to do state is TX, and you'll notice now I have two contacts. The other issue is that most of us, especially with lead forms, we're not always filling out the state or the address. And there are a ton of zip codes, thousands of zip codes in the state of Texas. It's a huge state. So my next best filter option that I came up with was phone number, known area codes for the state of Texas. And for that, there's a handful. You can certainly do a quick search or ask ChatGPT and come up with what those are. I happen to know that this is one of them. When I add that, you can see I now have a third contact that popped up here. And you would just add all the rest of the known area codes for the state of Texas. In my research, I came up with about 27 known area codes, which was still way easier than by the zip codes. Now I'm going to save this as a smart list that I can refer back to make sure that my automations are working and double check this. So I'm going to save. And this shows up here. So I now have all contacts, which happens to be a whole 4 in this account, and Texas contacts, which is now 3. Keeping in mind, when you make a smart list, you are the only one that can see it unless you share it. If you go under your Manage Smart Lists, this is where you can share this with anybody else in your account. Okay, so now I know that what I'm looking to do is make sure that these 3 people, or at least in my case, I want to make sure that these 3 people are not going to get SMS text messages. And part of the reason is that these new laws actually have hours upon when you can send people messages. So it's not just you have to register with the state, you have to get an insurance bond, you have to jump through a couple hoops, but then you also have to limit when you're sending messages. So if you have automations set up that are automatically sending messages a day after somebody takes an action, you're going to have to add in all kinds of parameters now for the state of Texas to make sure that they're only going out during allowable hours. And so that's why I've chosen to take the safe route and just opt these people out. One way to opt people out is manually. You can open the contact record. If you don't want to set up an automation, this is a quick way to do this. Open the contact record. At the bottom, you see DND, and you could set up all channels, just not do business with anyone in Texas. Not sure I recommend that. But you could just say text messages. When you mark that off, you are now not going to be sending any text messages to this contact in the feed here saying that that's what happened. So that is the manual process for turning on Do Not Disturb for text messages. However, I wanted to have an automation, and I was going to use these initial contacts to test that automation because any contacts coming into the account going forward, I also want this to apply to. We're going to go over to our automations, and I already pre-built one out, so I'm just going to walk you through this. This is the actual automation that we're sharing with all of our users and clients if they want to turn this on. Your initial trigger is any contact that is created. When you click Add a new trigger, you can find contact created right here and hit Save. Then I put in an if statement. If you want to find that action, you type in if, and it's the if else. In this case, I built out a couple of branches for this. One, I did a tag, Texas SMS opt-out. If I know somebody's in Texas and it didn't collect for some other reason, I could manually tag somebody and they would go through this automation. SMS would be disabled because of that tag. Next would be the state. So just like the filter that I did in my smart list, I'm putting in the state is Texas or the state is TX, and that comes down the next branch. And then I have the phone numbers. And again, here is all the phone numbers that I collected. And I do know that GoHighLevel has a new option here for is any of, and you can separate them by comma. I did test this. It did not work because it was looking for the full phone number to be just 325, and that obviously doesn't happen with a phone number. So you have to choose contains and put in the first 3 digits. So I put all 27 of those in here. And then there is the none branch. So there's nothing indicating that they're from the state of Texas. All right, so we have that they're manually tagged. The state says Texas or TX, and then they have one of those 27 phone numbers. If any of that happens, if they're tagged, then we're going to enable SMS DNS to find that action. You're going to hit the plus, and if you type in DND, you'll find the enable disable DND. You choose enable for a specific channel. You don't want to opt them out of emails, just the SMS at this point. I'm enabling SMS do not disturb. On these ones where they didn't have the tag yet, I'm actually adding the tag and then doing the same thing, enabling the do not disturb. And then for none, they're just ending the automation. That is how this works. So once this is all set up, you want to publish it and then save. Now I'm going to go back out to my contacts. So from my contacts, I now can either select all, or I could go just to my Texas list and select just those people. And I'm going to manually add them to this automation. And this is how, again, we'll know if it's working. All right, so I give this action a name, choose the workflow from the drop-down list. I want to send them all through at once. I don't need to schedule or drip this. I'm going to add to automation. I don't need to check on the process right now. Give that a second, and if we refresh, you will see that all of these people now have Texas SMS opt-out. If I open any one of them, you'll see that the phone number field worked because the phone number was in here with a Texas start to it. However, the state was blank. The other ones, the state was filled in. So they're now tagged as opt-out and do not disturb is on automatically. That's how you build a smart list. That's how you build an automation. That's how you add your existing contacts into that automation. But how do we collect the information going forward? The next step is to go through all of your forms where you're collecting new contact information and turn on a couple of things or add a few features to these forms. If I open one of my lead funnel or lead magnet forms, you're going to see that we're collecting first name, last name, phone, email, company, right? We're collecting a bunch of different information here. First name and email are the only required fields. Phone's not required. So somebody could very easily fill this form out, be a Texas resident, we wouldn't even know it. We get their phone number later and start texting them. That's where the problem could come in. Or if the phone is required here, our automation is going to collect it and connect to that, right? So a couple of things we can do is add state. And if you add state, I would make it required. People could put in NA, not applicable, if they don't want to fill that out or they're not from the United States. You could make the phone required if you wanted to. So both of those pieces would then trigger that automation to identify whether someone was from the state of Texas or not, or any other state in the future. So that's what I would do going forward. I would make sure your consent language does have information about text messaging just to help cover you for any state. But I would also add the state and possibly make the phone required. One or both of those features would trigger that automation we just built. Then you would save your changes. All right, so I hope you found that helpful if you're at all concerned about this new SMS law and any of the laws potentially going forward. If you're doing something different, I'd love to hear about it. Leave a comment. If you found this useful, I hope you will subscribe to the channel. I try to do as many tips and little tricks that I'm learning along the way, as well as things that we deploy for our clients on a regular basis. If you have a different understanding of this law, please feel free to share. I don't know exactly how this is all going to get rolled out or how it's even going to be enforced. So I'm happy to keep the conversation going and hear more about your thoughts moving forward. Thanks.